Hey you guys, so I've got these two Gamera heads that I'm gonna put on this little, um, I think Bronchiosaurus. Um, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna lop the head off here, and then I think I'm going to split this neck, either side, so a little bit of that can go into each one of these heads. And then we'll just kind of have it, splaying out. So you've got a head over here, a head over there, and then I'll end up making like a little shell for this out of aluminum foil and warbler. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get started on that, and I'll give you a little updates along the way. Thanks for hanging out, y'all. All right, guys. So I have filled this whole body with junk plastic and hot glue. So it's now completely solid plastic. You can see here I split the neck down both sides. You kind of see in there I had a big chunk of hard plastic that I used to wedge between these two necks to keep them splayed like that while it was drying. So that's nice and sturdy now. We've got plastic coat hangers on either side, that are going to be the supports for our two heads. And then it's going to end up, looking something like that, where one's kind of looking down and one's looking up. I don't think it's going to hold for me to show you that, but roughly like that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those heads on, and then I will sculpt a shell for our two-headed Gamerasaurus. All right, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit more work on this guy, and I'll give you an update in a bit. So here is our little Gamerasaurus all put up. What I'm going to do now is make a little shell for it. And I'm going to do that using aluminum foil. And I'll make a little, I don't know, kind of like Yoshi shell, I think, for it right here on the back. And then I'll cover it with warbler. Probably just hot glue the warbler to that right there. And then I'll add milliput over the top layer to do a little details for the top of the shell. All right, I'll show you that in just a bit. All right, so here is what we're starting with. I've got this very rough shape for the shell right now. So that's kind of how it's going to look. You see, I've cut two squares of warbler here, and I'm going to put one of these on either side and just kind of mold that around that aluminum foil. I'll probably end up adding a second square to both sides, so it's 2 layers thick on both sides. And then we're going to just hot glue that onto here, and then I'll actually use milliput to sculpt up the shell details over the warbler. But yep, that's where we're looking at right now. I'm going to do a little bit more work, and I'll show you once I get the warbler put over the aluminum foil. Alright, and so here is a rough look at our shell. I'm going to just put a generous amount of hot glue in here, and we will glue that shell on here. Remember, the warbler isn't meant to, we're not using this to have any detail. We're going to put milliput over the top part of the shell here and do all the sculpting detail for the shell. So this is just the base shell that we've built. I'll go ahead and get that glued on, and I'll give you an update here in just a little bit. Alright, you guys, so here is the two-headed Gamerasaurus with the shell glued on it. You can see we have warbler on the outside, and we used a really thick amount of hot glue on this. Now, I know I said earlier I was going to use milliput to texture this with, but I've got this epoxy sculpt, and I've actually never used epoxy sculpt before. I almost always use milliput for this sort of stuff, but I've got this, and I figured now's as good as any to give it a go. So I'm going to go ahead and use this for the very first time, and we'll see how that works out on this guy. I'll give you updates along the way. All right, y'all. Talk to you in a bit. All right, you guys. So here it is with the epoxy sculpt on it. You can see that's basically what we're dealing with. You know, I think it came out all right. This was my very first time ever using epoxy sculpt over milliput, and I will say I definitely prefer milliput. So they're basically like two different. I was thinking this was going to be just like another version of milliput, but like the texture they have are really quite different. Where milliput is really like an earth-based clay and how it feels and how it works with, and this is like working with silly putty. It's like rubber. That's what it feels like, working with that. So I think it's going to come out all right, especially once we get it painted up and all. But it's not as detailed as what I would have been able to do with the milliput. But I mean, we're gonna give this thing, more as Sofubi colors, so maybe a little, less detail isn't such a bad thing on something like this. But yeah, I mean, definitely not a bad thing, but definitely prefer milliput for my own little projects. I also think milliput sticks a lot better. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but definitely milliput just really clings to what you're putting on, where I really kind of had to smush this into it a little bit more. But yeah, overall, I think it's still going to be a nice little piece. But yeah, right now, I don't even really know how long this is going to take to cure. But I'll figure that out. I'm going to let this cure at least overnight. We'll see what's going on tomorrow and hopefully start throwing some paint on it. But yeah, so this is our two-headed Gamerasaurus. All right, y'all, check in with you in a little bit. I'll see you tomorrow when hopefully this thing's all cured up. All right, it's the next day, and he hardened overnight. Everything's looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and put a black priming coat on him, and then I'll show you that after that. So here he is, all primed in black. Now I'm going to start putting some blue highlights on the skin. And I'll probably also put some green highlights on the skin. But I'm going to start with a dark blue. And then I haven't fully decided what I'm going to do with the shell yet. I'm going to go ahead and start on the skin. And after we finish the skin, then we'll figure out a game plan for the shell. All right, y'all. All right, so here he is with a coating of blue on him. I am going to take this green now and do just a very light dusting over that just to give it a little bit more texture. But all right, I'm going to do that and I'll show you that in just a bit. All right, so now it's after I put a little bit of dusting of that iridescent green on it, you can just see different areas, it shines through a little bit more just to give the skin a little bit more depth. Now for the top of the shell, I'm going to do a dark purple, and then after I do that, I'll probably add some sort of pattern onto the shell. But I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll show that to you in just a bit. Alright, you guys, here is my two-headed Gamerasaurus, all painted up. What do you guys think? I think it came out pretty good. Really like the dot pattern here on the shell. I ended up, making this whole shell from scratch, both here in the bottom. You got two faces right there. But yeah, really like how this guy came out. Love the color pattern on it. He is up on the eBay, so you can go check that out if you feel so inclined. But yeah, it was a super fun build. Enjoyed making them. Yeah, thanks so much for coming with me on this journey. Please go ahead and follow me on Instagram and YouTube if you haven't already, and check out that eBay store. All right, thanks so much, y'all. You have a wonderful day.